There comes a moment in life when the noise of the world begins to fade, yet the silence it leaves behind feels heavier than sound itself. For some, it arrives quietly, a morning after retirement, when the alarm clock no longer dictates the rhythm of the day. For others, it comes like an uninvited guest, whispering in the hours of the night, asking questions no achievement can answer. Is this all there is? Was comfort the goal, or have I missed something deeper? It is a moment both unsettling and strangely sacred, the recognition of an invisible void. We live in an age where survival is easier than ever, where convenience surrounds us at every turn, and yet more people than ever confess to a gnawing emptiness, a loss of direction, a hunger for something unnamed. This paradox, this crisis of meaning, is not new, but today it presses upon us with unprecedented force. The outer world, filled with screens and distractions, may offer entertainment, but the inner world remains restless. The soul, after decades of labor, accomplishment, and responsibility, begins to ask its own questions. What was the point of all this? What remains when the roles, the titles, the duties are gone? And it is here, at this crossroad, that Theosophy whispers with its ancient voice. Theosophy tells us that life is not a random journey, nor a brief accident of flesh and chance. Life is a school, a sacred path. Every stage has meaning. Childhood, youth, maturity, and yes, even the years of retirement, are chapters in the unfolding of a larger story. A story not written by society, nor by fleeting desires, but by the very soul itself. This teaching may feel radical in a world where purpose is often reduced to success, wealth, or productivity. Yet Theosophy dares to say, purpose is not what you achieve, it is who you become. Consider this. What if your life was meant to be more than survival, more than comfort, but a hidden mission? A mission that does not end when your career ends, a mission that grows clearer precisely when the noise of the world falls away. This is the forgotten dimension of human existence. The soul did not come here merely to work, to earn, to consume, and to retire. The soul came here to awaken and to serve. But awakening is not a one-time revelation. It begins with a question, the very question you may be feeling now. Why am I here? And though society may call this crisis, Theosophy calls it the beginning of initiation. Look carefully at the invisible void, and you will see it is not emptiness but space, a sacred space, waiting to be filled with a higher meaning. The silence of your days is not punishment, it is invitation. The end of old routines is not loss, it is clearing. And what stands before you is not decline but the doorway to a new form of life. The life of the soul. Helena Blavatsky, the fiery founder of the modern theosophical movement, once warned that humanity suffers not because it lacks comfort, but because it has forgotten its inner compass. She wrote that every human being carries within them a spark of the eternal, a fragment of the divine plan. This spark, though veiled by the habits of daily existence, is indestructible, and when all else is stripped away, it is this spark that begins to shine. Perhaps you feel it now, not as clarity, but as restlessness. That is the beginning of awakening. That is the seed of purpose. And so, as the old certainties crumble, another certainty rises. You are not here by accident. You are not finished, no matter your age. You are part of a mission that stretches beyond a single life, a single role, even a single world. Tonight we will journey into that mystery. We will rediscover the forgotten map of the soul, the vision of life that Theosophy entrusted to seekers more than a century ago. It is not a map of dogma or blind belief, but of discovery, a map that says, your story is larger than your job, your possessions, or your years. A map that invites you to look at life itself, every loss, every victory, every question, as steps in a greater path of awakening. So if you feel the invisible void pressing in, do not run from it. Step into it. For within that silence lies a voice, ancient, patient, and luminous, the voice of your own soul, reminding you that your purpose is not lost. It has only been waiting, waiting for the moment you were finally ready to listen, and that moment could be now. What then is purpose? In the language of Theosophy, purpose is not a task handed down by society, nor a fleeting passion chosen by mood. Purpose is not imposed from the outside. It is discovered within. It is described as a golden thread, a subtle current that runs through every life, connecting our beginnings to our endings, our struggles to our triumphs, and our fleeting days to the eternal stream of evolution. This thread cannot be bought, it cannot be awarded, and it cannot be destroyed. But it can be forgotten. The emptiness so many feel, especially in the quiet years, when the clamor of duty and ambition subsides, is not proof that life is meaningless. It is proof that the thread has been left unseen, unattended. The soul knows it exists, and it whispers for us to follow it. Yet when ignored, that whisper becomes the ache of emptiness, the subtle sorrow of feeling that even daily victories weigh little in the silence of the night. Have you ever felt that? The applause fades, the responsibilities are fulfilled, the material achievements are real, and yet, alone with yourself, something feels unfinished. Not because you lacked success, but because the deepest part of you was never addressed. This is the hidden teaching. What the world calls an existential crisis, Theosophy calls a symptom of the soul's forgetfulness. It is not punishment, it is reminder. Purpose, then, is not about clinging to old roles, nor about chasing new distractions to fill the void. Purpose is about remembering the soul's own intention before it entered this life. For Theosophy teaches that before birth, each soul carries a seed, a mission woven into its very being. The tragedy is not that this mission is absent, but that we have drowned it beneath the noise of survival and routine. And so, the call of purpose begins not with action, but with listening. Listening to the silence behind the noise. Listening to the subtle discontent that no entertainment can erase. Listening to the heart's quiet insistence that there must be more. Blavatsky wrote that the soul's voice is often like a distant echo, faint, easy to ignore, but persistent across the years. If one learns to listen, it grows louder, clearer, until it becomes the guiding current of life itself. But how do we listen? How do we translate this mystical idea of a golden thread into something real, tangible, and practical? The first principle is simple, but profound. Purpose is born from connection with the higher self. Theosophy distinguishes between the passing personality, the I made of habits, titles, and temporary desires, and the enduring self, the immortal spark that transcends lifetimes. The personality is like a costume, worn for a single play. The higher self is the actor, returning to the stage again and again, with a story far greater than a single act. To live only as the personality is to forget the actor, to confuse the mask with the being. No wonder the mask eventually feels empty, but to turn inward, to glimpse even for a moment the vastness of the self behind the mask, that is the beginning of true purpose. Purpose, then, is not invented. It is remembered. It is the rediscovery of that golden thread which was always there, waiting. And perhaps this explains why so many feel the call most strongly when the outer noise of life finally quiets down. Retirement, solitude, even loss. These are not merely endings, but openings. They strip away the roles and routines that once defined us, and in that vulnerable space the whisper of the higher self can finally be heard. The question is, will we listen? What would change if you believed that the void you feel is not absence, but invitation? What if your dissatisfaction is not a flaw, but the first tug on the golden thread of your own soul? What if every restless night, every haunting question, is not the end of meaning, but the beginning of memory? To live with purpose is to follow that thread, step by step, moment by moment, back to its source. It does not require grand gestures or immediate clarity. It requires only openness, the willingness to turn inward, to acknowledge that your life has always been more than the surface would suggest. Blavatsky once said, "Man is the bridge between the human and the divine, and it is upon this bridge that purpose is found." not in the denial of ordinary life, but in its transformation, when seen through the lens of the eternal. The call of purpose is already sounding. It may come as a question in the night. It may come as a sudden weariness of the trivial. It may come as an intuition that all you have done was preparation for something deeper. Theosophy does not ask you to abandon your life. It asks you to infuse it, to let the golden thread of the higher self shine through your choices, your relationships, your service, your very presence. And so, the invisible void begins to change. What once felt like emptiness is revealed as space, fertile, waiting, holy. What once felt like loneliness becomes solitude, where the soul can finally be heard. The call of purpose is not a voice outside of you. It is the awakening of the voice within you. And if you listen carefully, you may hear it now. Purpose is not one-dimensional. It is not a single answer, a single role, a single achievement. Like the soul itself, it unfolds in layers, each one deeper, wider, and more luminous than the last. Theosophy teaches that human life moves through three great layers of purpose: the personal, the human, and the spiritual. To live fully is to allow all three to breathe, to interlace, to harmonize into a life that is both ordinary and transcendent. Let us walk through each of these layers together. 1. The personal purpose, the inner garden. The first layer is the most intimate. It is the purpose of caring for the self, not the selfish self of fleeting desires, but the living instrument of mind and body through which the soul must operate. Imagine a garden. If neglected, the soil becomes barren, the weeds overrun, and the flowers cannot bloom. In the same way, the body, the emotions, and the mind require tending. To eat well, to move the body, to calm the nerves, to discipline thought. These are not shallow concerns. They are sacred duties. Blavatsky wrote that the body is the temple of the higher self. If the temple collapses, the flame cannot be seen. To keep the temple in balance is not vanity, it is preparation. So the first purpose is self-care, not indulgence but stewardship. To cultivate clarity of mind through reflection and study. To maintain health, not for its own sake, but as a vessel for higher work. To engage in self-observation, journaling, meditation, the quiet arts of knowing oneself. For without self-knowledge, all other purposes collapse. If you do not know your own tendencies, your own shadows, your own strengths, then the deeper callings of service and spirit will be distorted. The first purpose is, therefore, the garden of the self. It is where you prepare the soil, strengthen the roots, and create the foundation for the greater layers to come. 2. The human purpose, the circle of service. The second layer expands outward, beyond the self. It is the purpose of serving others, family, community, and humanity itself. Here, the language of theosophy becomes clear. No one is an isolated being. Every thought, every action ripples outward, touching lives unseen. Theosophy speaks of the chain of humanity, an unbroken current where each person is both receiver and giver. To serve others is not an optional virtue. It is the law of life. The very breath we take is borrowed from the trees. The food we eat is the labor of the earth. The knowledge we carry is the inheritance of generations before us. Life itself is service. To recognize this truth is to awaken the second purpose. Blavatsky often warned against spiritual selfishness, the idea that enlightenment could be pursued for personal gain alone. She insisted that the true disciple lives not for himself, but for the good of all beings. And so, the human purpose is not abstract. It is found in the everyday acts of compassion, guidance, and responsibility. To raise children with wisdom and kindness, to care for a partner or a friend in their time of need, to use one's skills, talents, or resources for the benefit of community, to speak words of truth that uplift rather than wound. These acts, though ordinary, are spiritually luminous. They weave the golden thread of purpose into the fabric of human life. For have you noticed? The moments that endure in memory are rarely the grand successes. They are the times when love was given, when help was offered, when presence itself was a gift. This is the circle of service, the second purpose, where the self begins to dissolve into something larger, where the I becomes we. 3. The spiritual purpose, the current of evolution. But beyond the personal and the human lies a third layer, vast and transcendent, the spiritual purpose. This is the alignment of the soul with the great current of evolution, the unfolding of consciousness itself. Theosophy teaches that humanity is not static. It is a river, flowing toward greater wisdom, compassion, and unity. Each individual life is a drop within that river, carried forward by a momentum older than nations, older than civilizations, older even than the earth itself. To live the spiritual purpose is to recognize that you are not only living for yourself, not only for your family, not only for this moment in history. You are living as part of a cosmic plan, a movement of consciousness stretching across ages. Here, purpose becomes destiny. It is not about what job shall I do or what role shall I play. It is about aligning with the great current of awakening, to live in harmony with truth, to embody compassion, to reflect the eternal in the fleeting. Blavatsky wrote that man is a cell in the body of humanity, and humanity itself is a step in the evolution of consciousness. To live spiritually, then, is to remember that your life, however ordinary, contributes to this greater unfolding. This is the highest purpose, not only to tend the self, not only to serve others, but to consciously join in the work of the soul, the work of the universe, the work of spirit itself, the harmony of the three. Yet these three layers are not separate. They are not choices between paths. They are strands of the same thread, woven together into the tapestry of a meaningful life. If you tend only the personal, you risk selfishness. If you focus only on the human, you risk burnout and imbalance. If you reach only for the spiritual, you risk detachment and illusion. The fullness of purpose comes when all three are honored, the body and mind cared for, the circle of service embraced, the current of spirit followed. When these three move together, life becomes whole. Small acts, great significance. But how do we live this in practice? Must one join an order, renounce the world, seek visions in mountains? No. Theosophy insists that it is in the smallest of acts that the greatest purpose is revealed. Consider this. To rise each morning with gratitude is to live the personal purpose. To speak with patience to a loved one, even in irritation, is to live the human purpose. To pause in silence for 5 minutes, aligning thought with the eternal, is to live the spiritual purpose. The greatness of purpose lies not in grand gestures, but in the intention behind each act. To wash dishes in mindfulness, to greet a stranger with kindness, to read a page of wisdom before sleep. These are not trivial. They are the living practice of the threefold purpose. And slowly, almost invisibly, these acts accumulate. They reshape the self. They ripple into the world. They align us with the current of evolution. The universal current Blavatsky taught that no one is too small to influence the universal current. Just as a single drop creates ripples across a lake, each act of conscious living strengthens the tide of human awakening. When you live your personal purpose, you offer stability. When you live your human purpose, you offer love. When you live your spiritual purpose, you offer light. And in this way, your life, yes, your very ordinary life, becomes extraordinary. It becomes part of the work of ages, the secret labor of the soul to turn chaos into order, selfishness into compassion, darkness into dawn. Closing reflection. So let us pause here, in this moment. Ask yourself, which of these three purposes have I honored? Which have I neglected? And what would it mean today, not tomorrow, to take a single step toward harmony? The garden of the self, the circle of service, the current of spirit, 3 layers of one purpose, 3 voices of one soul, 3 steps of one eternal journey. Your purpose is not hidden in distant mountains, nor locked in ancient texts. It is here, in your body, your family, your heart, your breath. It is here, in this very moment, waiting for you to remember. The word disciple may sound ancient, conjuring images of desert wanderers, temple seekers, or monks cloistered in silence. Yet in truth, a disciple is simply one who learns, one who listens deeply to life, one who chooses to live with intention. And so the question arises, what does it mean to be a disciple in the 21st century? We live in a world unimagined by the sages of old. Glowing screens that never sleep, endless choices at our fingertips, voices competing for our attention in every waking hour. For many, these distractions dissolve the inner voice until only noise remains. But here lies the paradox. The very modern world that scatters attention also offers unprecedented opportunities for awakening. Never before has wisdom been so accessible, connection so immediate, possibility so vast. The difference lies not in the world, but in how we walk through it. To be a modern disciple is not to flee from the world, but to walk within it with clarity, with discipline, with purpose. Theosophy offers not an escape, but a way, a thread that guides us through the labyrinth of modern life. And at its heart, the path can be lived through 4 simple, powerful practices. 1. Daily self-observation, the soul's journal. The first practice is self-observation, a quiet art of recording the movements of the soul. Imagine keeping not merely a diary of events, but a journal of the spirit. Each day you sit in stillness and ask, what stirred my emotions today? What thoughts carried me away? Where did I act in harmony with my higher self? Where did I fall into shadow? This is not confession. It is not judgment. It is witnessing. By writing even a few lines each night, you create a mirror in which the soul can see itself. Blavatsky insisted that the unexamined life is the life asleep. To awaken requires the courage to see oneself clearly. And so, with a pen and paper, or even a simple note on your phone, you begin the practice of awareness. Over time, patterns reveal themselves, reactions soften, the shadows lose their hold. You become less a prisoner of habit, more a participant in conscious living. This journal becomes the diary of the soul, not to be published, not to be shared, but to be treasured as the map of your inner journey. 2. Silence and short meditation, the window to the higher self. The second practice is silence, the stilling of the storm within. In an age where attention is currency, silence becomes rebellion. To sit, even for 5 minutes in wordless stillness, is to step outside the machinery of distraction and return to the center. Meditation need not be long nor elaborate. Theosophy teaches that a brief but sincere moment of silence, repeated daily, can open the door to the higher self. Find a quiet place. Close your eyes. Breathe gently. Let the body soften. Let the thoughts settle like dust in water. And then, in that silence, whisper inwardly, I am not my body. I am not my emotions. I am not my passing thoughts. I am the witness. I am the soul. Even a few minutes practiced each day begins to reshape the mind. You discover that beneath the noise, there is a current, a quiet stream of clarity, compassion, and strength. That stream is your higher self. The silence becomes a window, a sacred pause in which eternity touches the ordinary. Restudy of ancient wisdom, nourishing the mind. The third practice is study, to nourish the mind with ideas that lift it above the trivial. Blavatsky dedicated her life to preserving fragments of the ancient wisdom, not as relics, but as living seeds for modern minds. To read even a single page of the great texts, whether the Secret Doctrine, the Bhagavad Gita, the Tao Te Ching, or the mystic poets, is to invite the soul into a greater atmosphere. Study is not about accumulating knowledge. It is about tuning the mind to higher frequencies. Just as music reshapes emotion, ideas reshape thought. And when thoughts are lifted, life itself is lifted. Even 10 minutes each morning with a page of wisdom can reorient the entire day. These words act as a compass, reminding us of the larger story in which we live. The modern disciple chooses carefully what enters the mind. For every image, every phrase, every sound leaves an imprint. By feeding the mind with wisdom, you strengthen its ability to discern truth from illusion, essence from distraction. 4. a daily act of conscious service, the secret offering. The fourth practice is service, not grand, not public, but small and intentional. Theosophy insists that true spirituality is measured not by visions, but by deeds. Each day, the modern disciple seeks one act of conscious service, to offer kindness without expecting return, to listen patiently to another's burden, to give time, attention, or even a smile, with awareness that it is a gift. These acts may go unnoticed by the world, but not by the soul. For each act of service polishes the mirror of the heart, allowing the light of the higher self to shine more clearly. Blavatsky wrote that, "Compassion is the law of laws. To live compassion is to live the deepest purpose." And so the practice of service becomes not an obligation, but a joy. It reminds us daily that we are part of the chain of humanity, part of the current of evolution, part of the great work of spirit. Living purpose in the ordinary. These four practices, self-observation, silence, study, and service, may seem simple, but their power lies in their ordinariness. The modern mind often imagines purpose as something extraordinary, a heroic quest, a rare vision, a destiny written in stars. Yet the truth is more subtle, more intimate. Purpose is not found in the extraordinary, but revealed in the ordinary, when touched by the eternal. When you write a few honest lines in your journal, you are living purpose. When you pause for breath in silence, you are living purpose. When you read a page of timeless wisdom, you are living purpose. When you offer a kind word, unseen and unrecorded, you are living purpose. These are not small things. They are the scaffolding of the soul, the daily steps of the disciple, the simple acts through which the eternal finds expression in time. The disciple in the modern world. To be a disciple today is not to withdraw from life, but to walk within it awake. It is to scroll through the endless noise of the world, yet choose silence. It is to face the flood of opinions, yet choose wisdom. It is to see the hunger for attention, yet choose service. It is to encounter distraction at every turn, yet return again and again to the golden thread of purpose. This path requires no monastery, no robe, no title. It requires only sincerity. For in the end, discipleship is not about perfection. It is about direction. Each day, imperfectly, haltingly, you turn again toward the light. And with each turn, the soul grows stronger, the purpose clearer, the life more luminous. Closing reflection. Tonight, as we reflect on this path, let us ask, what small act of self-observation can I begin today? Where can I carve a moment of silence? What single page of wisdom can I read tomorrow morning? Who in my circle can I serve with kindness before the day ends? These questions are not theoretical. They are the living doorway into purpose. For purpose does not arrive all at once in visions or revelations. It reveals itself, moment by moment, practice by practice, act by act. To walk the path of the modern disciple is to weave eternity into time, soul into body, compassion into action. It is to live not for the extraordinary, but to allow the extraordinary to shine through the ordinary. This is the invitation. This is the work. This is the path. Every path of purpose, no matter how radiant, crosses valleys of shadow. The seeker who imagines a straight ascent into light misunderstands the very nature of growth. Mountains are climbed not by avoiding obstacles, but by pressing through them, one deliberate step at a time. And so, as we walk the road of purpose, we encounter challenges, inner and outer, that test the strength of our resolve. These challenges are not signs of failure, but necessary companions of awakening. Let us look with honesty at four of the most common obstacles that visit the modern disciple: the emptiness within, the fear of irrelevance, the grip of the past, and the endless distractions of the present. The invisible emptiness. The first obstacle is the silent weight of emptiness. For many, especially in moments of transition, retirement, loss, solitude, there comes a gnawing sense of hollowness. Days stretch out, unmarked by urgency, and the question arises, what is all this for? This emptiness can feel unbearable, as though life has lost its meaning. And yet, Theosophy teaches that this very void is not a curse but a signal. The soul, weary of shallow pursuits, begins to whisper that it seeks something deeper. Blavatsky wrote that behind dissatisfaction lies the call of the higher self. The hunger you feel is the proof that your spirit has not resigned itself to sleep. It is the ache of wings that know they were made for flight. When emptiness comes, do not run from it. Do not drown it with noise or numb it with endless distractions. Sit with it. Listen. In its silence lies the first spark of the greater purpose you seek. The fear of irrelevance. The second obstacle is the fear of becoming irrelevant, of no longer being needed, valued, or remembered. For those who once carried roles of responsibility, in careers, in families, in society, the shifting of those roles can feel like erasure. The world moves on quickly, the phone rings less, the calendar empties, the old titles dissolve, and in the quiet of night, a haunting question echoes, do I still matter? Theosophy answers with clarity. Your worth has never been in roles or titles. These were but garments, temporary masks. Your true significance lies in what you are as a soul, eternal, luminous, inseparable from the great whole. Irrelevance is an illusion born from measuring yourself by the yardstick of society. Purpose is not given by others. It arises from within, from the thread of connection between your higher self and the universal life. When fear of irrelevance arises, remember, every kind thought, every act of compassion, every silent effort to bring harmony into the world reverberates far beyond what the eye can see. No soul is ever irrelevant in the work of the universe. Attachment to the past. The third obstacle is the chain of the past. We carry within us the weight of memory, triumphs we long to relive, mistakes we cannot release, regrets that whisper at night. Some cling to old glories as though their light could sustain them forever. Others are imprisoned by wounds that refuse to heal. But Theosophy teaches that the past, whether sweet or bitter, is but a teacher. Its purpose is not to be clung to, but to be learned from. Every joy, every sorrow, every failure was a step that brought you here, to this very moment, to this very path. Clinging to the past is like trying to drink water from a river that has already passed downstream. The present is the only place where purpose can be lived. Blavatsky insisted that suffering and mistakes are not permanent stains, but tools for growth. Karma is not punishment, but education. A sculptor's hand shaping the rough stone of our character into something finer. The past is not your prison, it is your teacher. When you release its chains, you walk free into the present where new purpose awaits. The distractions of the modern world. The fourth obstacle is perhaps the most relentless. Distraction. We live in a world engineered to scatter attention. Endless streams of images, news, advertisements, voices clamoring for every spare second. The mind becomes restless, perpetually fed but never nourished. Hours dissolve and the soul is left hungry. Distraction is not merely an inconvenience, it is a thief of life. Every moment lost to noise is a moment stolen from silence, reflection, and purpose. Yet even here, Theosophy offers hope. Distraction cannot be defeated by force of will alone. It is overcome by remembering what is sacred. When you taste the depth of silence, the clarity of study, the joy of service, distractions begin to lose their hold. The higher self offers nourishment that no glowing screen can replace. The modern disciple does not deny the world, but learns to walk through it awake, choosing deliberately where to place attention, guarding the flame of purpose from the winds of noise. The theosophical view of suffering. Beneath all these obstacles lies a deeper truth. Suffering itself is not the enemy. In the theosophical view, suffering is not meaningless. It is not random. It is the fire that tempers the soul. Without resistance, the muscles of the spirit cannot grow strong. Without challenge, the diamond remains uncut, its brilliance unseen. Blavatsky spoke of suffering as the hand of the master, shaping us for greater service. Each difficulty is a lesson, each trial a mirror, each obstacle a step upward. This is the principle. Difficulties are not walls to stop us, but steps to raise us. The path of purpose is not smooth, because smooth roads do not awaken. It is in the struggle that the soul remembers its strength, reflection for the seeker. And so we ask, what if every trial was secretly shaping the very purpose you seek? What if the emptiness you feel is not a void, but the clearing of space for a new life? What if the fear of irrelevance is not a death, but an invitation to discover worth beyond roles? What if the chains of the past are not weights, but tools carving wisdom into your soul? What if the distractions of the world are not enemies, but reminders to return to silence? Theosophy invites us to see obstacles not as accidents, but as threads in a greater design. Each challenge is a hidden teacher. Each trial is a doorway disguised as a wall. Closing vision. As we walk the path of purpose, let us not despair when shadows fall, for the shadow proves the presence of light. The emptiness teaches us hunger for the eternal. The fear of irrelevance teaches us the truth of the soul. The past teaches us wisdom. Distraction teaches us attention. Every difficulty, when faced with courage, becomes a step upward. And so the disciple learns to welcome even struggle as part of the sacred work. The mountains of purpose are climbed not by avoiding obstacles, but by discovering that every stone underfoot is part of the way upward. And when the soul sees with these eyes, it learns that even suffering can be grace. Purpose is not fulfilled when one simply learns how to live well. True purpose extends beyond the boundaries of our own heartbeat. It leaves a trace, an echo, a ripple that moves outward into the lives of others, and lingers even after our voices fall silent. To live with purpose is noble. To leave purpose behind as a legacy, that is divine. Beyond the self, Theosophy reminds us that our journey is not solitary. Each soul is a thread in a vast fabric of life, woven together by unseen hands. The measure of a life is not merely the comfort it achieved, but the resonance it leaves behind in the world. Helena Blavatsky spoke of the work for humanity invisible, the labor of those who, often unnoticed, dedicate their energies to lifting the consciousness of all. These workers are not remembered by monuments or praised in the headlines. Their true work is subtle, planting seeds of wisdom, offering encouragement, healing wounds in silence, transmitting light in ways that may never be recognized by the outer world. To live with legacy means to join this invisible current. It is to understand that every act of compassion, every word of truth, every patient example of integrity is not lost. It vibrates through the fabric of humanity, influencing hearts you may never meet. Retirement as a turning point. For many, retirement is seen as an ending, the conclusion of labor, the closing of chapters. The roles once played are no longer demanded. The schedules once filled now stand empty. But what if retirement is not an ending, but a turning? What if it marks not the decline of relevance, but the dawn of a deeper kind of work, the work of the soul? In earlier years, much of life is consumed by outer duties, careers, responsibilities, raising families, managing survival. These are important, but they are not the totality. When those duties ease, a greater opportunity arises, the chance to shift energy inward toward reflection, and outward toward service without condition. This is not the retirement of rest alone, but the retirement of awakening. The transition from building for oneself to building for humanity, from chasing achievements to transmitting wisdom, from doing to being. Theosophy calls this stage a sacred turning point, from the work of hands to the work of the heart, transforming experience into guidance. Every life, no matter how ordinary it may appear, carries a treasure of experience. The struggles endured, the lessons learned, the paths walked. These are not accidents, but jewels waiting to be shared. To leave a legacy is to recognize that your experiences, once private, may become lamps for those still walking behind you. A story told at the right time can save another from despair. A word of encouragement can redirect the course of a young life. Even silent presence offered with compassion can become a healing force. Consider, the wisdom gained through decades of trial is not meant to be buried in silence. It is meant to be gifted. Purpose ripens when it turns outward, when your journey becomes nourishment for another soul's path. This is how one transforms the weight of years into the wealth of guidance. Each scar becomes a testament of survival. Each failure becomes a lesson for others. Each joy becomes proof that beauty can be found along the way. The subtle service legacy does not always require grand gestures. It is not measured by fame, nor by how many remember your name. The greatest legacies are often invisible, flowing through small acts that multiply unseen. A gentle listening ear, a book recommended at the right moment, a prayer whispered for one in pain, a kindness extended without expectation. Blavatsky wrote that the work of the true disciple often passes unnoticed because it is carried on in silence. Yet these silent deeds are the most powerful. They become like seeds sown in the soil of time, sprouting long after the sower has passed. To live with legacy is to realize that you are always sowing. Every word, every act, every thought plants something into the world. The conscious disciple chooses to plant light, from outer work to inner labor. As life moves forward, the body may slow, but the spirit need not. The outer work may diminish, but the inner labor can expand infinitely. Meditation, reflection, prayer, silent goodwill, these become invisible currents sent into the world. Theosophy teaches that thoughts themselves are forces radiating into the collective mind of humanity. To hold thoughts of compassion, clarity, or strength is to contribute to the healing of the whole. Thus, even in solitude, even in silence, the disciple leaves a legacy. The quiet labor of the heart is as real as any physical deed. And in this stage of life, perhaps more than ever, the soul has the freedom to focus on this invisible service. The eternal echo legacy is not measured by years, but by resonance. The echo of a life lived with purpose continues beyond the physical. When we pass from this world, what remains is not our possessions nor our accolades, but the imprint of our influence. The lives we touched, the souls we strengthened, the truths we embodied. These endure. Blavatsky described humanity as a chain of consciousness, each link bound to the next. To leave a legacy is to strengthen the links, so that those who follow walk more firmly, with greater light. And so, as we reflect on purpose, let us see beyond the span of our own lifetime. Let us imagine how our actions today might ripple into tomorrow, how the wisdom we share may reach a child not yet born, how the kindness we offer may echo through generations, a living invitation. Your legacy is not built in the distant future. It is built now, in the daily choice to live with intention. Every conversation can carry wisdom. Every decision can radiate integrity. Every act, however small, can become part of the invisible work of lifting humanity. And so the question arises, what legacy are you weaving today? Will it be one of quiet withdrawal or one of silent service? Will it be a story of comfort alone or a story of awakening? Will it echo with fear and regret or with courage, compassion, and light? Theosophy calls us to the higher path, to live not only for ourselves, but for the great chain of humanity. To see retirement not as retreat, but as transformation. To recognize that our life, however ordinary it may seem, can leave extraordinary ripples when aligned with the eternal. Closing vision. And so purpose as legacy is the final flowering of the soul's journey. It is the stage where one's life, with all its triumphs and trials, becomes an offering, a torch passed into the hands of others. This is the great work of the disciple, not to conquer the world, but to illuminate it, not to escape life, but to enrich it, not to cling to self, but to contribute to the whole. In this, the soul finds its greatest fulfillment. For the measure of purpose is not what we keep, but what we give. Purpose is not a puzzle you must endlessly solve, nor a treasure buried beyond your reach. It is the simple yet profound act of aligning the fleeting self, the one bound by years, roles, and circumstances, with the eternal self, the quiet flame within that has never been touched by time. To live with purpose is to remember this alignment. It is to allow the small stream of daily life to merge with the great river of universal meaning. The synthesis think of all we have uncovered. Purpose is not imposed, but discovered. the golden thread connecting you to the whole. It unfolds in layers, caring for body and mind, serving humanity, and surrendering to the eternal. It is lived in practices so simple that they hide in plain sight. Daily self-observation, moments of silence, study of wisdom, and acts of service. It is tested by challenges and revealed in the courage to transform trials into stepping stones. And at last, it blossoms into legacy, a resonance that outlives the body, a contribution to the invisible work of humanity. All of this is purpose, and all of this is within reach, here and now. The power of the simple. Do not underestimate the small. Great rivers are fed by countless drops. A life aligned with eternal purpose does not need extraordinary events. It needs ordinary moments infused with sacred intention. A journal line written with honesty. A minute of silence held with reverence. A page of wisdom studied and absorbed. A gesture of kindness made without expectation. These are the threads of destiny, the silent bricks of the eternal temple we build with our lives. Purpose, then, is not far. It is as near as your next thought, your next word, your next deed. The awakening seed. And so I leave you with this. Your purpose is not lost. It has been waiting for you. Like a seed in the dark, ready to awaken. Perhaps you have felt the emptiness of nights without meaning. Perhaps you have feared that time has passed you by. But purpose is timeless. It does not decay with age, nor diminish with circumstance. It waits, patient as the soul itself, for the moment when you turn inward and say, yes, I am ready to live aligned with the eternal. Like a seed, your purpose has endured winters of forgetting. But now, in the light of awareness, it begins to stir. And if you nurture it with practice, with reflection, with service, it will grow into a tree whose roots reach deep into eternity and whose branches offer shelter to all who pass beneath. A personal invitation. This is not theory. It is not philosophy for another age. It is a living call to you. As you leave this moment, do not let it fade into the noise of distraction. Pause. Reflect. Choose one practice, only one, and begin. Perhaps tonight you write a single, honest sentence in your journal. Perhaps tomorrow you spend 3 minutes in silence. Perhaps you call someone who needs to hear your kindness. Small beginnings awaken eternal purposes. If these words have touched something within you, I invite you to walk this journey with us. Subscribe, reflect, share this message with another who may be wandering in silence. For every seeker is part of this great chain of awakening, and together, we weave a fabric strong enough to carry humanity forward. The journey continues. But this is not the end. Theosophy does not stop at the question of purpose, for beyond purpose lies destiny, and beyond destiny lies mystery. And so, in our next journey, we will ask a question both ancient and urgent. What happens after death? And why does it matter now? For the way we understand death changes the way we live, and perhaps it will change the way you live with purpose today. Closing vision. So let us part with this truth echoing in your heart. Your life is not a random crossing of days. It is a mission. It is a seed. It is a light waiting to be revealed. Purpose is not somewhere beyond you. Purpose is you, when you awaken to the eternal flame burning within. And that flame, once lit, becomes a beacon for your life, for those around you, and for the humanity yet to come.